A lot of people seem to think city pop came completely out of nowhere, as if it was this musical phenomenon that bubbled up without a lot of external influence. But the fact of the matter is, city pop was this long distance conversation that was happening between Japan and the United States, but the influence was not a one-way street. Both of these cultures were looking at each other's music, at the production processes, and they were learning and borrowing from each other the entire time. In the late 70s, Japan was going through this immense economic growth, and there was a lot of admiration for the music and culture that was coming out of the States. Earth, Wind and Fire, Steely Dan, Hall & Oates. This influence was so strong that the Japanese artists would actually take the American music, combine it with their rapidly advancing tech in synthesizers and in music production, and they take this meticulous attention to detail and try and replicate that music in a way that made sense for them and their culture. City pop, compared to the American music at the time, was a little bit cleaner and sweeter. Everything was so much more tightly packed. It's almost like they didn't take the music and copy it, they refined it. They distilled it into this art where precision was as important as musicality. But obviously the influence went both ways. When the American artists themselves came to tour Japan and they would have sessions in the Japanese studios, they'd meet some of these Japanese artists. They were so impressed by how clean, how well organized the studios were. The way that the Japanese recorded their music was almost scientific. Their studios were like labs. They cared so much about signal purity, about noise floors, about distortion, hum, hiss. Everything was so well ordered and maintained that the Americans were kind of blown away. And obviously after they'd seen all of this, the American music culture started to adopt some of the practices of the Japanese studios. The way that this city pop was being produced, written, arranged, but most importantly recorded, was taken back to the States. And some of the music that you hear after this conversation kicked off really reflects how impressed they were by the Japanese standards of music production. All kinds of artists were very clearly borrowing stereotypical city pop chord progressions, textures, and using them for their own stuff. This conversation between the States and Japan really came through in the 80s. You listen to something like Hiroshi Sato's Blue and Moody and compare it to some of the Quiet Storm music that was coming out in the early 80s in the States. Even between Michael McDonald and Tatsuro Yamashita, there were so many parallels between the way that these people were organizing their arrangements and recording things. There was this cross-pollination where these people were in opposite ends of the world, but their music was speaking to each other. And the digital era has blown this up to even bigger proportions, with vaporwave and the internet and SoundCloud unearthing a lot of these gems for the West. We're seeing a whole new generation of music lovers find this city pop material and just become obsessed with it. And it's clear to see why. There's no such thing as American music and Japanese music. All of these things were happening in tandem, and these artists were cross-referencing each other the entire time. City pop exists because the Japanese loved American R&B, and modern R&B exists because Americans loved the precision and the cleanliness of Japanese city pop. And it goes to show music doesn't travel in straight lines around the world. It doesn't travel in lines at all. It's this ongoing conversation between people who are open enough to listen to what's going on in their environment and integrate the best of what they hear into what they do. And city pop is just the best example of two cultures coming together to teach each other how to make incredible music.